esteemed colleagues who are on the panel, Prophetess Dr. Debbie Isaac and Superintendent Mark Christmas. And as we consider this topic, I've been asked to address the area of prayer and the focus especially for leaders. But as we think about prayer, there is a whole lot that we can say about it. However, I want us to acknowledge that within each of us there is that desire to reach out to God, to a supreme being who is higher than us. And I think that that comes through a sense of connecting through prayer. And when we think of prayer, there are various things and definitions that individuals would give, but in its simplest terms, we are having a conversation with God. And I like to think of our conversation with God as one of an empty chair experience, whereby He is very present with us, even though it does not appear that way, because we can't physically see Him and tangibly touch Him. But we know that the Word of God reminds us that He is always with us. He said in Joshua 1, and speaking to Joshua, He says, I've commanded you to be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for I am always with you. And when we think of communicating with God, we have to think of His presence, because often in our communication, we think, well, if somebody is not close to us physically and we can't see them, there is no need to communicate with them. And each of us have that burning desire within us to communicate with someone. And there are those who find prayer difficult because of the experience or the socialization or the indoctrination they have had to prayer. But whenever I am introducing individuals to prayer, I like to encourage them to just appreciate that it is in the first instance speaking your heart to God, because He already knows exactly what is in the heart. And so we share that. And as we focus on prayer, I often encourage individuals to think of the character of our God, who He is, because I do believe that it is in understanding the character of God that we can pray appropriately to Him. We can't communicate properly to individuals who we don't know, who we are skeptical of, who we are afraid of, who we are not comfortable with. And sometimes when we introduce individuals to prayer, we say, well, just pray. But who am I praying to? What is this individual like? How does this individual see me, and how do I see that individual? And when we think of the character of God, it makes our prayer stronger, because the character of God is expressed through His incommunicable attributes and His communicable attributes. And His incommunicable attributes are those that He does not lend to us as humanity, that God, first of all, is independent of us. And because He's independent of us, we rely on Him. Through prayer, we can do nothing outside of His empowering. We can do nothing outside of His presence. And prayer allows us that connection with Him, because He is independent of us. And when we think of God's independence, then it makes us more reliant on Him through prayer. When we think of other incommunicable attributes of God, we think of the fact that God is eternal. And if God is eternal, then He knows everything from eternity past right into the future. And who would not want to connect with someone who is eternal, knowing everything? Today we would want to take time to look into the future. But in connecting with God, we are saying, God, I acknowledge that you are the beginning and the end, the first and the last. And then you look at His communicable attributes, that He is love. You want to have a relationship with someone who loves you. You want to have a relationship with someone who will forgive you. You want to have a relationship with someone who is caring. And so when we begin to focus on the attributes of our God, I think it makes our prayer stronger. And especially the attribute of forgiveness. When we think of that, it allows us to be willing to offer prayer on behalf of others. Because that prayer that we offer is minded that we ourselves have been touched by the grace of God. And so, in focusing on those who lead, it is imperative that we offer prayer on their behalf because we have been commanded to do so. They need to be empowered and to be strengthened so that if they are unjust, by the power of prayer, they would learn justice, and the Lord would touch their hearts, and He would convict them of what they need to do, so that if they are caring, that they would even be more caring. But we have to focus on lifting and holding up those who lead in the church, in the government, in the business, our police officers, our healthcare professionals, because not only are we praying for them to perform their duties, we are also praying for them in their personal lives. They have families, they have feelings, they have emotions, they have challenges that they themselves need to address, and they spend the time serving us while at the same time often at the expense of their own health, their own emotional well-being. And so we don't take them for granted, but we place them before the throne of God and lift them up so that God will strengthen them in their work. And so in closing, I know that there are many individuals even tonight who are listening to this program who themselves are challenged and require prayer. And as Reverend Christmas was talking about the whole counseling aspect, I think that prayer in itself moves us to a point where it transcends counseling, but it gives us that confirmation that we have someone who is touched with the feelings of our infirmities. And so we can always place it before the throne of grace. So we look forward to your calls and to engage in the continued conversation. Thank you.